Hello, welcome once again to Lehto's Law. I'm Steve Lehto. Big news for people who buy defective RVs, which is pretty much anyone who buys a brand new RV, or so it seems. Story was sent to me by Rob. It's out of Illinois. Thanks, Rob. Illinois Supreme Court. Buyers of defective RV not required to allow dealer to fix it before demanding refund. And this is a story I hear all too often. But good news here. The Illinois Supreme Court has awarded vindication to a couple who purchased a defective motorhome when the court ruled that buyers were entitled to revoke their acceptance of the motorhome and return it to the dealer. Defendant Vacation Land argued that plaintiffs had not allowed it adequate time to fix the recreational vehicle's defects before revoking their acceptance of the unit. After succeeding at the circuit and appellate levels, Vacation Land lost its argument before the Illinois Supreme Court on September 19th. The buyers had purchased the RV new from Vacation Land in 2014, and a few months later they noticed a window leak. So they took it to Vacation Land, who offered to repair the issue at no charge. A month later, leaking windows during a rainstorm caused extensive damage inside the unit, including electrical failures. Vacation Land told the couple it could not repair the defect itself and would have to send the RV back to manufacturer, an extremely common occurrence in the RV industry. Neither Vacation Land nor the manufacturer would give the couple an estimate of how long the repairs would take, and the RV sat at the dealership for more than 2 weeks without being picked up by the manufacturer. Nearly 3 weeks after returning the vehicle for repairs, the buyers told Vacation Land over the phone that they revoked acceptance of the RV. They verbally said, "We don't want it anymore. It's yours. We want our money back." About 6 weeks later, Vacation Land called the couple and told them the repairs were complete and they could come pick up their vehicle. The pair responded with a letter from their attorney confirming they had revoked their acceptance of the RV. They later filed a lawsuit in Kane County Court seeking a return of the purchase price plus damages. At issue before the court was a very simple question. Was whether the revocation was allowed under the Uniform Commercial Code. And by the way, for some odd reason, the sovereign citizens have glommed onto the UCC as if it answers and addresses everything. It actually addresses very little in your day-to-day life. And I often have them accusing me of saying, "Steve, you don't know anything about the UCC," despite the fact I deal with it almost every single day. And in fact, it's actually very common to use it in my field of work. But so I'm always amused when I see the UCC actually popping up in the news in a real way. The UCC states that a buyer may revoke his acceptance of a lot or commercial unit whose nonconformity substantially impairs its value under two conditions. One, if the buyer knew the item was defective but expected it to be repaired. Or two, if the buyer did not know the defect at the time of purchase. Okay, so I bought it, I knew it was defective, or I didn't know it was defective when I bought it. While Vacation Land conceded that the buyers did not know the RV was defective when they purchased it, they claim the statute allows that the dealership should have time to address the defect. The buyers, meanwhile, argue that the ability to repair a defect applies only to the first condition of the statute and not the second. Now, what's fascinating about this, and this brings us to something that often comes up. So people are talking about statutes and laws and what they say, as I always say, well, show me the law. Now, my OCD viewers will notice that a book is missing from behind me because the book is in my lap. The whole time I've been sitting here, you didn't know this book was in my lap. And there's a bookmark in here, right there. And the bookmark is familiar to many of you. And the bookmark is at the Uniform Commercial Code, page 1017, but this is from the Michigan compiled laws. And in Michigan, we've adopted the UCC verbatim. I actually had somebody the other day say, "Well, Steve, you're from Michigan. You wouldn't know about the UCC." The UCC has been adopted by all 50 states in America, and many of them have adopted it verbatim, which means that the UCC I use in Michigan is much like the UCC you use in Crazyland. So there. But we're talking about Section 2-608, or in Michigan as we call it, MCL 440.2608, acceptance of goods. The buyer, that's the consumer, may revoke his acceptance of a lot or commercial unit whose nonconformity substantially impairs its value to him if he has accepted it on the reasonable assumption that its nonconformity would be cured and it has not been seasonally cured, or without discovery of such nonconformity, if his acceptance was reasonably induced either by the difficulty of discovery before the acceptance or by the seller's assurances. Okay? So, Section 1B says without discovery of such nonconformity. Okay? Well, they didn't know about the problem. if his acceptance was reasonably induced either by the difficulty of discovery or by the seller's assurances. But you'll notice that it does not say, and under this section, however, the seller has the opportunity to fix it, or the warrantor has the opportunity to fix it. It doesn't say that. So when people talk about what the law says, the first thing you do is go, well, let's go look at the law and see what the law says. Okay? 2608, that's what the law says. And you might say, well, Steve, what else? Is there something else in that subsection that addresses this? Well, 2608 number 2 says revocation of acceptance must occur within a reasonable time after the buyer discovers or should have discovered the ground for it, before any substantial change in condition of the goods which is not caused by their own defects. It is not effective until the buyer notifies the seller of it. That's it. Doesn't say anything about a right to cure here. Okay, and that's what we would call it. We'd say a right to cure, a right to fix the defects. Okay, so I won't put the bookmark back in because I know what that section is. I just do that so on camera I can save some time. But the point is that the law does not say they have a right to cure. So Vacation Land argued that because the couple had brought the RV in for repair, they were obligated to allow time for the repairs before revoking the purchase. The court found no support for that position by simply reading the statute and seeing the statute didn't say that. Nothing in the record indicates that plaintiffs agreed to an open-ended repair timeline, one of the judges wrote. The fact that they considered allowing defendant to cure does not obligate them to accept an unreasonable cure. The case was remanded for further proceedings. Presumably, it's going to go down to the lower court, and the lower court's going to be told this revocation was good. Now calculate how much money the sellers have got to give back to the buyers, along with most likely their attorney fees and court costs and interest and any other damages, because under the UCC, you can get your consequential damages arising from a breach of warranty or a revocation of acceptance arising from a breach of warranty. So this is one of those cases where right now, RV people in the RV industry are freaking out. They are freaking out, I assure you. And I think I told you a while back that the RV industry is running ads earlier this year about how they defeated lemon law legislation in a couple states and how proud they were of that by taking away rights from consumers. And, well, here's the thing. This law right here being interpreted this way is simply Illinois law. But I can tell you that many states look at Illinois law and go, seems reasonable. I mean, Chicago is in Illinois. You know, a lot of smart people are in Illinois, and the courts there are presumably pretty good. So their Supreme Courts ruled this way. Why wouldn't other Supreme Courts rule this way? So I wouldn't be surprised if you now see more litigation against RV manufacturers, particularly on the ones that are delivered defective, which is, like I said before, almost all of them. So the question is, are the defects that they're delivered with, do they rise to the level of substantial impairment, which is not defined within the statute? And I've had many people call me and say, Steve, I bought a brand new RV. I paid them the phony $1,000 inspection fee, drove it off the lot, plugged it in the first time, and stuff blew up, stuff caught on fire, stuff leaked, stuff didn't work, stuff wasn't plugged in, stuff fell off the walls, things broke, things were broken, things were missing. Okay? Brand new unit. And they bring it back to the dealer, and the dealer goes, it's going to be 6 or 8 weeks, but we'll get to it. Don't worry about it. People are like, wait, I bought this thing a week ago. I've been driving down the shoulder of the road to bring it back here in 6 to 8 weeks. My advice to you is contact a local attorney and say, what do you think about this case? This case out of Illinois. This case, I'm not sure about the exact title of the case, but the plaintiffs' names were Asentura and Wozniak, just like the Woz and Asentura. Asatura, there's no N in there. Kimberly Asatura and Adam Wozniak and Vacation Land. But look up the Illinois Supreme Court case that says that if you've got grounds for revocation, you don't need to let them cure. There's a case in Michigan I've talked about before. I know I've written about it before, involving a spare tire, case called Colonial Dodge. And a man bought a station wagon, and when he brought it home, it had no spare tire. And he called up the dealership, and they go, yeah, your car has no spare tire because we didn't have enough to go around. And he goes, what do you mean? Don't cars come brand new with spare tires? And they said, yeah, but we'll get you one eventually. And he goes, I need a spare tire right now. And they said, we can't do that for you. And he revoked his acceptance of the vehicle because of the missing spare tire. And the dealership took that up to the Michigan Supreme Court and actually said, you can't revoke your acceptance just because of a missing spare tire. The Supreme Court said, are you guys crazy? You guys sold a guy a car with no spare tire, didn't tell him it wasn't there until, he found it on his own. Then when he caught you for selling the car with no spare tire, you then said, oh, we'll get you one eventually? What's wrong with you people? And they upheld it. Said, yeah, give the man his money back and pay his attorney fees and court costs. So the dealerships, the manufacturers, the groups that support these people, they're going to go nuts over this. But it is what it is. Illinois Supreme Court. So great case out of the Illinois Supreme Court, striking a blow for RV owners across America, many of whom are perturbed. And this is good news for them. So there you go. Questions or comments, put them below. Let's talk to you later. Bye-bye.